Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock. It's time for a Talk Magic. And today I'm back with an interview with somebody I've been wanting to interview for a while now. Now, this is a prolific creator, somebody I've raved about on the channel over and over again. If you've been watching my reviews, I've said on camera that the best oil and water in existence, as far as I'm concerned, is by this person. What you might not realize is if you've ever followed Penguin Magic on social media, this is the man that makes it tick. This is the guy that pretty much does the whole of Penguin Magic social media. So if you want to know how to actually get, shown on their social media or shared, this is an interview that you're going to want to listen to. But on top of all of that, super creative, super nice guy, very talented. Also, one of the best Penguin lines I've ever seen. I'm, of course, talking about the one and only Josh Burch. How you doing, Josh?
I'm great. How are you, Craig?
I'm excited, man. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for coming on the channel. I meant every word I said. You're brilliant. You're awesome. You really are.
Epic. I appreciate it. I love creating magic. I love that this is something that I get to do and get to meet awesome magicians like yourself as I do it.
Absolutely. And you know what? I've got a feeling. I said to you just off camera, recently, probably in the last 6 months, especially when I watched your Penguin live, I've become a very big fan. Before that, I was aware of you, but I wasn't really too much aware of the type of magic that you did. And I think my goal with this interview is I want more people to know who you are, because you're amazing. You really are. And you've got an interesting story. And I want to pick your brains and find out a lot about what you've done and get some advice. And would that be okay with you?
Absolutely. Let's get going. Yeah.
Amazing.
Let's do this.
Well, I'm going to start at the very beginning, Josh. Now, in case anybody who doesn't know who you are, let's start with your origin story. So, Josh, tell me, how did you get into magic? Where did that happen?
Yeah, so I was really, really young. We used to go up to a family cabin up in the mountains here in Utah. And I saw Lance Burton on TV and thought it was the greatest. He was the greatest thing in the world. I started to dress with on one of his specials, he wears black pants with a t-shirt. In second grade, that was my uniform throughout throughout all of school. I was trying to dress like Lance Burton. And I started to ask for magic kits and things around that time, and started going to the library and getting all of the books. And really early on, I started to do kids parties and started to get into kind of magic history and things of that sort. Somewhere around my teenage years, I read Hiding the Elephant by Jim Steinmeier. Yeah. And where I was performing for kids' birthday parties when I was really little, that was fun. And I thought, man, if I was to be professional, I would have to go be a great performer. And then I read Jim Steinmeier's Hiding the Elephant, and I thought, wait, there are people who create the magic tricks. This is like a thing that people do. So I got really into that. I got really into stage kind of theater, and started to keep track of my own creations, my own magical thoughts and things. And then as I got older, I went to college. And when I first entered the university, my major was in technical theater. So I thought, I'm going to go and I'm going to design sets for a living and maybe do some special effects while I do that. Things didn't quite go that way. And I ended up being a teacher for language. I was teaching French. And then I got kind of looped into this doing some creative stuff in magic. And eventually Penguin heard about me, and now here I am. So that was kind of the Reader's Digest version, the condensed version of my story.
Well, let's break that down a little bit and kind of go into a little bit more detail with that.
Yeah.
So did you decide early on, you know what, I want to focus on the creative side of things? Because that's something that's very unusual. Most people go, hey, I want to be a performer. And having watched your Penguin live, you're a great performer. So I suppose two questions. One, did you always want to move into the creative side of things? And two, do you perform, or is it something that you don't really do and you focus just on creating?
I do perform. I think that magic is one of these things where it's difficult to create if you don't know how things are going to, like, I'm the person who tries out all of my stuff first, right? It's at my gigs and things. It started off with being, I wanted to be like Lance Burton. I wanted to be like Houdini. I wanted to be like David Copperfield. I wanted to be like these guys that I had heard of, and be a great performer. As I got older and I thought, well, how can I like position myself? What do I want to do? I don't really want to move to New York or Las Vegas or carry my family around touring. That's when I got kind of interested in creating, and I love creating magic. But I do perform. I am the house magician at the St. Regis Hotel at Deer Valley. So Deer Valley is one of the nicest, most like decorated ski resorts in the world. And then their best hotel is the St. Regis Hotel. So I do perform there. I do cocktail shows, or I do like their cocktail hour. They also have a private club. So that's lots of what I do is kind of close up, walk around magic and things. But I do a lot of parties. I do a lot of church functions, scouting events. I'm an Eagle Scout myself, so I kind of in that economy as well, kind of performing for young kids. So I do both. I get a lot more satisfaction from creating. And I'm glad that in magic there are a lot of people who would prefer to be a performer than actually creating. I don't know. I enjoy the study of magic, and part of that study has to be performing. So I hit it from everything. I do a lot of family shows. I do a lot of close up kind of cocktail hours that are very like white or black tie events and things as well. So I hit it from both angles. When I first started being creative in magic, I thought everything that I've got to do is on a stage, right? I mean, I was a child of the 90s. And of course, there was Franz Harari had a whole bunch of specials. There was The World's Greatest Magic, which was wonderful. Of course, David Copperfield had his yearly specials. And so there was a lot of this great magic on TV, and all of that magic, for those of you who aren't of that era or don't remember, all of that magic was stage magic. Even Paul Daniels did mostly stage, maybe some stand up or close up, but a lot of stage stuff. And so that's what I was seeing. And I thought, if I'm going to create, I need to create big box illusions. So I did a lot of studying on that. But then as I got older and booked for things, I thought, oh, I can't build these big giant stage illusions. I don't have the means to go get a whole bunch of dancers and the music and stuff. So I ended up having to create methods and things that I could use and go out and do. I still do some creative work for people on stage, but it's usually within like a community theater production or something of that sort. Right. So it's a little bit different, but I love the creative side of things. That's where I really like to live. But then again, everybody asks, when you're a magician, they want to see magic. So you got to know how to perform as well. It's one of those things where you have to be able to do both a little bit.
Oh, I agree 100%. And you said that you got into magic from a very young age and got fascinated with it through school. I get a lot of people that are like 16, 17, 18 that ask questions on this channel that say, hey, I want to become a full-time magician. How does that pan out? What do I need to do? You said that you went to college. Now, was the plan when you were going to college, because you make all of your living from magic right now and always, have done for years, whether it's creating or working with Penguin or going out and performing. Was the plan when you were going to college, hey, this is going to be a career? Or were you kind of keeping your options open and you were like, right, I'm going to go to college because I don't know what I'm going to do? How did that look?
Yeah, so I started to do theater when I was in high school. So I was probably 16 around that time. I started to do theater thinking maybe this would be helpful if this pipe dream that I have of becoming a full-time professional magician, maybe this will help me get there, right? And so I kind of had this in the back of my head. But I mean, my real priorities in life are, well, I want to have a family. I want to have a home. I want to have a stable life. Very kind of old fashioned that way. So it kind of so this dream of being a magician and having a family I couldn't figure out how to make them mesh. So really, I was very practical, and I finished high school. I went to college. I thought, maybe I can make a career out of doing something with performing and something in the stage craft world of things. And so that was what I initially went into college for. But then I switched my major a couple times. I lived in Canada for a couple years, and I learned French before college. So then once I went back to college, I like took some more French classes and found that because I could speak the language, I was accelerated a little bit. Finished that up, and I became a high school teacher for a little bit. I taught high school for 3 years. Taught French in high school, and I married a math teacher, not at the same school or anything like that, but so she was teaching math, and we were kind of going through school at the same time. We figured out how to get hired at the same time. And while I was teaching, I would kind of sneak in a magic trick here and there or whatever to try to. I was doing Professor's Nightmare and going, this is a short rope, this is a medium rope, this is a long rope, and things, and trying to like make French more memorable and things as I was teaching. And then I was contacted by so that was the idea. I had a very steady job as a teacher, but I was contacted by Rick Lax, and this will surprise some people. But Rick Lax used to do magic on video, and everybody was excited to see Rick Lax's tricks, and he's kind of stepped away and done other stuff.
That period of time on Penguin, when he was uploading videos and he was in a coffee shop with his headphones in, and that was an iconic period of time, because that came after kind of Oz Perlman, and it kind of was the transition period between Oz and who we have now with Eric and Nick, right? And that period of time, Rick pretty much carried Penguin on its back for a while. He was doing all the videos. I remember that period of time.
Yeah, he had some great releases through Theory 11, and then he moved over and had some great releases with Penguin Magic, and he started to do a little bit more with Penguin. And then he did a couple things with the Mind Power deck. He did a couple tricks for Penguin that were like interactive tricks. And this was one of those things, just one of those things that I had kept track of over the years, right? I had always loved, Max Maven used to do these interactive effects on a lot of the TV specials. David Copperfield would do things. He did like the 9-card mystery, which is a classic and so fun to just fool yourself with as you're doing it. And so I had kind of kept in a notebook in a couple places kind of my own thoughts on these things and my own creations. And at one point when he was at the height of his like popularity doing magic tricks in the coffee shop, he asked people on Facebook, he said, hey, does anybody know more interactive magic? And I just happened to have the like knowledge base, and I sent him a whole bunch of things. And at that point, he started to pay me for my ideas. I would send him some ideas. And the way that the process worked was I would send him something that I thought was really great, and I thought, this is going to fool magicians. And then he would have to simplify it to make it fit the format that he wanted, or to optimize it for Facebook. And I think he's kind of continued to do that with his videos and really optimize them. And sometimes it makes a fun video, and sometimes it makes an obnoxious video by design. But eventually he started to do less and less magic, and he didn't have as much for me. While at our height of things, he was actually paying me like in equivalent amounts to what I was making as a teacher. And so it was this very strange thing where it was like these videos were doing really well, and I was having fun creating them. But then he stopped doing these kind of magic videos, and he started to do more of the pranks and more of the other stuff, which a lot of people aren't as big of a fan of, but it was something that he pursued. And at that point, we had this great relationship, and he sent my name over to Penguin, and Penguin was happy to have to bring me on and use some of those creative juices in different ways. So it was really, really a lot of fun. Yeah. That's
So
kind of.
when you were working with Rick, were you still a teacher? I suppose what I'm asking is, you were a teacher for 3 years. What made you kind of go, you know what, I don't need to do this anymore. I can do what I love. I can start creating magic. I don't need that income. When did that, was that when you were working with Rick, when you went to Penguin? When did that happen?
Yeah, so while I was working, in order to get there are three ways to get a teaching license, and one of them is to go to get your master's in education, right? To get a little bit of a higher degree, and if it's in education, then you can get your teaching license at the same time. So it's kind of in the weeds here, but what happened is I decided to take a year off of teaching, and we were just going to lean on my wife's income while I finished my master's, and then I would go back to teaching. And I took a year off of teaching, or so I was creating for Rick while I was teaching. But then once I took this year off, I was creating more and making as much money as I was while teaching. And then he gave my name over to Penguin. And so instead of going back to teaching, I all of a sudden had a job lined up, and Penguin was very giving and excited to have me on the team. And so it just ended up working out. Yeah.
Amazing. And do you ever miss teaching, or is it something that you kind of go, you know what, it was great when it happened, but I'm getting a chance to perform magic now. I'm getting a chance to.
Yeah, sometimes, I didn't have kids at the time, right? And now my oldest is 7 years old, and I've been able to like volunteer in her classroom a little bit. Uh, I joke from time to time that it'd be fun to go like substitute teach her class or something like that. But there was just a lot of stress. There's a lot of, you're under a microscope from everybody, right, as a teacher. And to step away from the limelight a little bit is kind of nice, which is a silly thing for a magician to say, that I'd like to step back and not feel so exposed right there. But yeah, so there are times that I'm really excited about teaching. But with a lot of that, I'm here on Penguin teaching magic, and it's just like I've changed subjects to some extent.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you start working at Penguin. You've been there for many, many years now. What was your role when you first joined Penguin, and has that changed over the years?
Yeah, it has. So my first role, they kind of got me. I was doing customer service kind of things a little bit, but Ajar was really excited because I created my first product with Penguin 10 or 11 years ago now, called Electro. It's a 2-deck Triumph effect where you have a selection with a red deck and a selection from a blue deck. You shuffle the cards together and then they sort themselves out. So I had kind of a relationship with Penguin. And so the team kind of knew that I liked this creative stuff. But so they got me creating a magic trick for Penguin Magic Monthly every month. So for the last 5 years, if you've received something from Penguin Magic Monthly, there's usually a gimmick in the back, or like a free trick that you get. I've been doing that for the last 5 years. So I've been either gathering it or writing it. And that eventually transitioned into me being the head editor of Penguin Magic Monthly. So if you want to get your ideas written up, you send them over to me and I can get them written up and published through Penguin Magic Monthly. So that evolved a little bit, but very quickly I was doing a lot with the magazine. And then I got in, and I've had a handful of different projects with Penguin as well. And then about 3 years ago, I started to slowly take on the social media stuff with Penguin, which led to what we do on Instagram and some of the new stuff we've done on YouTube. We've split the channel into 2 channels because we have products coming out on one and then other stuff coming out on the other. There's a lot that's gone on. Yeah.
Wow. And I've gone on record and said that the Penguin Magic social media has blown up in the last 3 years. So you've had a big part to play with that, which is incredible.
Yeah. So if you've seen a couple of years ago, we decided people want to see uncut magic videos, which I know you do a lot of these on your live days. You had a performance of my trick, which was awesome, which was great. So people want to see magic uncut. So as a magic shop, we were trying to figure out ways to show them that. And then just the idea of reels started to become really important and really interesting on or short form videos, which you've done a lot of as well on Instagram and YouTube. So if you've seen any of our really cool, I think that they're awesome. I just love getting them. And like, yeah, it's like Christmas every week when the team sends me everything that they've been working on that week that I can then go post. But if you've seen any of our real short form videos with some of these really cool performances, yeah, that was I had a big part in that. Yeah.
My favorite thing at the moment that Penguin have ever done is the new thing that's just come up, which is Eric Tate's Will It Cobra. Like,
yeah,
I just think that's hilarious. Just watching Eric take that so seriously is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
It's so funny because the Cobra cut, that's got to be one of the most difficult like cuts in the world. Like it's very, very difficult. And so Eric, yeah, for those who haven't seen it, Eric will reach back and grab a deck of cards and try to do a Cobra cut with that deck of cards. And it's funny and it's impressive because Eric is extremely talented. And but it's great. You should go watch them. There's 2 episodes up now. We're talking about what to do for episode 3. And if there's enough of a response, Eric wants to do it till he dies. So we'll see if it lives much longer or if it fades out. We'll see.
That's so funny. Do you find it difficult running the social media when you're away from the rest of the team? And because for the people that don't know, a lot of the guys that people might know from watching the social media, Penguin Magic social media, people like Nick and Eric and all of the guys, they're based in Columbus and you're based in Salt Lake, like miles away. Is that disconnect, that geographical disconnect, an issue, or is it not really too much of a problem for you?
It depends on what we're doing, right? So I do a lot of writing for the magazine and some editing for other book projects and stuff. And so with some of that, it's nice to be isolated because I can just kind of close up shop and not have somebody like breathing over my shoulder. But there are challenges. Usually the challenges come because we haven't been communicating enough, right? If we can talk more back and forth. But yeah, a lot of it's good. I make my way out to Columbus several times a year at this point with different projects or to just talk with the team. And we'll be meeting up in Las Vegas for Magic Live, of course. And so we talk a lot. Really, I work on a daily basis. I'm working with Nick and Eric, talking about what kind of videos we're going to be doing. They do a lot of that. They're like our head pitch guys, right? So they're in a large way, they're like the face of the company. And I just get to sit back and direct. And for most of what I'm doing, it's completely fine that I'm disconnected. I can also, while they're off filming and editing and things, I can pull back. I do some editing as well, but I can kind of keep I'm not in the middle of things. So my perspective is a little bit different and it works as a director. There are other things that I could do if I was there, but they're so talented in things that they make my job easy, even with the distance.
That's fantastic. And when do you find time with all of the social media that you do and everything else that you do for Penguin? And, I'm fully aware that you spend a lot of time editing book projects, obviously, but outside of all of that, like, how do you find time to create? Because obviously you bring out tricks, products, physical products on quite a regular basis through Penguin. And to be clear, they are the largest magic shop in the world. If they weren't great ideas, they wouldn't want you to be bringing them out. And it shows just how good your stuff is. As I said, your oil and water, I do it in every single gig. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's amazing. So when do you find time to create on top of all of this as well?
Yeah, so the oil and water specifically is I created that a long time ago. So that one that was another Josh in another right. But it just barely bubbled up recently. No, I kind of, if I have an idea for what's going into the magazine, then I'll really jump into it. I'm kind of always creating. It's magic is kind of like it's super addicting. I just and to my family's like chagrin, I'm constantly, when I go home or when I'm at home and I'm not doing magic, I'm usually reading a biography of a famous magician and going back. I just got through David Devant's My Life in Magic for the first time. Wonderful, really funny, good book. Um, but I'm just constantly just, part of it's for work, but I just don't get bored of it. Lots of other people do. I know a lot of people get burnt out. I'm harder to burn out when it comes to magic. I don't know if I feel like I might be a kindred spirit with you.
You probably are, yeah, absolutely.
A lot of it is being interested too in like all areas of magic. That's something that I find very easy. I know lots of guys are put off by like silk magic or something, and I'm like, oh, but look at all these cool things you can do with silks or whatever. Like I get really geeky into the minutia of things. I love like collecting magic squares, which I know a lot of guys are like, magic squares, but I love looking at them and figuring out. So I just don't get bored as easily by magic. And so when I go to bed, I'm always thinking, what's the next trick that I could be doing? And I let my subconscious brain work out something. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing. Every time anything, if yeah, well, I don't, it's like a muscle too. As I pick up a new method or as I see a new trick, there's usually something that I feel like I can do to improve it or make it my own. And so that kind of thing. And if you do that enough, if you make it your own enough, then eventually you have something that is new, right? You change this and you change that and you change this and you change that until it looks like something that's completely different. So yeah, I'm just constantly thinking about magic, like to the point where it's almost a problem. So
I can relate to that as well, yeah. That's a great answer. So let me ask you a question that I know that I would get lynched if I didn't ask this question to you. You're one of the team, obviously, that will look at submissions to Penguin
yep.
and go, and input as to whether you think it's something that should come out as a physical product.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody who wants to be a magic creator, both in terms of creating the trick in the first place, but then getting somebody like Penguin to actually back it and release it, not just as a Penguin partner product, but as an official Penguin Magic Presents? What
Yeah.
process do people need to go through to get onto Penguin's radar?
So there are,
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so there are several ways. First off, there are several ways that you can publish with Penguin, right? You can go in the magazine, which you can talk to me. You can do a Penguin Magic or Penguin Partner Program, which you produce your own thing and then send it to Penguin, and you can host it. We'll host it for you. But yeah, getting an actual Penguin product is kind of the most difficult route, and it's not for everybody. And there are certain pieces of magic that there are tons of ideas that I have that the other guys on the team are like, no, well, you can do that yourself, or maybe not now, or so it is difficult. I can tell you what Penguin is looking for, which this is something that we talk about a lot when we go back and forth. We're looking for kind of the best version of whatever you're doing. So we really do try to look for, so if it's a, let's see. So we have an alphabet deck with Penguin. It's called Snaps. And it was created by Dan Harlan and David Jonathan, two incredibly creative magicians, right? And as far as I'm concerned, it's my favorite version of the alphabet deck that's out there. All of the alphabet, right?
It's incredible.
Yeah, or another one would be Black Door, where Black Door is a double envelope that magnetically locks, and it's probably my favorite version of an envelope. So you could argue that either of those are kind of the best as far as locking envelopes go, or as far as you could make that argument fairly easily. So when we're looking for other people's magic, when we're looking at other people's magic, we want to see something that you could really make that argument for it. You can say this stands out because it's the best and it does this and this and this that's different than others, or that makes it a little bit better. So that so that's the first thing, the best in its category. That's the best thing that's going to make it ready. There are other things though. We have a group of magicians that are looking at the submissions. That's the way that Penguins works. I don't know how other companies do theirs, but we have a group and we all say yes and no. And a lot of that comes down to kind of the main things. If you've ever received a magic product and you've been kind of bummed out that you can't hand the cards out afterward, well, we want to make sure that when that we've at least thought that through, right? The idea of what happens in this scenario, right? Well, they want to examine the cards. Well, lots of magicians will have that concern. If you've had that concern while picking up magic, then lots of magicians will have that same concern. So the second thing is to really kind of go through what are the negatives of your trick or of your effect, and how can you like solve those? How can you deal with those? How can you get rid of some of those things? So there's stuff like that. That if there is a negative, how can you deal with it? A lot of the issues we have with some of the products that come through are magicians that just might not be willing to look at their own magic and see the blemishes in it. And I think with 99% of the problematic pieces of magic that we get, or of the pieces that don't quite fit, they could have, like, there's a solution that they could find out that would fix some of those problems, but we just need time. And Penguin, when we receive a project, we really need it to be just about ready to go out, just about ready to manufacture and to send out right into the world. We have so many projects and everybody's got so much to do that we don't really have a lot of time to really flesh stuff out and to really, like, we can point an artist in a direction, but we don't have a lot of time to really put a lot of the R&D in. So those are the big two things. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is we have to be able to manufacture a product. Because of piracy right now, we don't we have backed away from doing as many downloads, and that we look for other ways of releasing magic that might be that may have been a download in the past. So that might be the magazine, it might be in a lecture, it might be something else. Another way we might encourage an artist to put out a Penguin partner trick, or we might encourage them to, well, if there's something that you have to make that's like a DIY thing, well, maybe there's a way that we can make it in our shop, and that means when you purchase it, you're happier because you can just get it and work with it immediately. So those three things are kind of the points. Sorry, I've rambled a little bit, but the first one,
haven't. This is fascinating. Like, okay, fascinating to me.
So yeah, so the first point would be it needs to be the best in your category. You need to be able to argue that it's the best, at least. I don't know if there's actually a best in any category. The second thing is you need to look at any problems with the trick and really look at those with a critical eye. If you're performing the trick and somebody's catching you out for something specific, we're looking for people who have worked that out, which is with all of your magic, Craig. If anybody who's ever purchased Craig Petty magic knows that you have looked at every product from every possible angle. We're looking for that. We love to see that, right? We want to see people who are comfortable with their trick. And then the third thing is it needs to be able to be manufactured, right? Mm-hmm. And part of that is it needs to be manufactured easily, in a way that either a human can do it, or we can get we can use some of our tools that we have at our disposal to do it. So yeah, I don't know if that helps. That's a lot of what goes on there. Yeah, so things with gaffed cards are usually fairly easy to work out, or to put out, as long as it's a good trick. Yeah, I guess one more thing to and then other things that are easy to like gimmick up, or we have Seth, who's great at 3D printing and kind of even metal,
Yeah.
working with metal, of course, with the Keymaster, um, and other effects like that. That he's doing coin gaffs now, which is really awesome to see. Yeah, there's also there's one other thing, but I got distracted. I don't know. Yeah, so those are the main things, right? We have to be able to put it. Oh, that was the other thing. We also have to keep in mind how we're going to sell it. So this is something that is difficult. It's extra difficult when it comes to mentalism, because we can make a trailer for a visual piece of magic and have it be really visual and have everybody react, and oh, it's amazing. With some of the mentalism stuff, it can just be difficult to figure out a way to go about it. Now, we have a lot of mentalism. I think Penguin probably puts out as much or more than just about everybody out there. So it's definitely possible to do, but you have to think about what's going to make this appealing as a trailer that we're putting out into the magic world. Yeah, so that's my
really,
TikTok on
yeah,
releasing magic.
that's really insightful. And I mean, incredible, really. But here's the thing. What so you've answered the aspect of how to try and get on Penguin's radar, which is great. How would you, what advice, somebody who creates a lot of magic, right back from when you were creating with Rick Lax and all the way up until now, have you got any advice for people who want to become a magic creator, but they don't really know how to approach it? Because I've talked about this on the channel before, but people come into magic and they look at the creators in magic as like, you know, they put them on pedestals, don't they? Oh my God, I want to be that guy. I want to be that Greg Wilson. I want to be that Jay Sankey. How can people become creators? You've talked about working your material in, you've talked about how you perform everything. How do people find inspiration? How do you create a magic trick? And I know this is probably a video in its own right, but you know, as somebody who's done so much, if you've got any advice, it'd be great to share it.
Yeah, I love talking about this. This is like my favorite subject. I think the easiest, actually, we in the magazine, we're talking with, I asked the same question to Franz Harari, and to hear his creative process was crazy. He has a story about messing with his tongue in a mirror, and that's how he created a double sawing in half. It was he tells the whole story in a future issue of Penguin Magic Monthly, which is great. I'll let you read that then. But for me, almost always it starts with a method, and this is different and pushes back on. I think the traditional wisdom is to start with the effect first. For me, that's not very effective. To start with the effect, I like to kind of get to receive a method, or to look at a method and go, what's the best possible effect that could take advantage of this method, right? What's the best possible thing that would just blow minds the most with this specific method? So that's one of the ways that I came up with peanut butter and cheese, my oil and water, is I had gimmicked up some cards to do some stuff for like other tricks, and I thought, and then I started to mess around with them and thought, oh man, I can do this with these cards. And like I was just playing with it and found out, oh man, this is this new thing. I can create this new effect, or what felt very new and very fresh. That's where that kind of, there's a visual separation of the oil and water, which is a lot of fun. So I usually start with the method and I work backwards and find an effect. Now, if I'm working for somebody else, it's different. And Franz kind of talks about this idea. If I'm working for a stage production of Peter Pan, or right now I'm actually doing magic for the stage production Xanadu. We're doing some stuff. I have to look at it differently. I have to think, okay, well, the director wants me to levitate a disco ball. Okay, well, I better do this in a way that I know is going to work for them and that they're going to be happy with, right? But when you're working from the method, you don't have to work within those parameters, right? If I start and go, hey, I wonder if I could do an oil and water, and then it changes into, wait, but what if I used poker chips instead of cards, and what if I used, and then I start to try to work out an oil and water with poker chips, and then it transforms into, wait, I could do this with coins, or I could do this with cell phones, or whatever it was, right? Then it slowly like goes on, and I continue to practice and play with these things as we start to do them. So this would be my process. I would say I find a method or something that excites me. Maybe it's just the trick in itself, and I start to play with it and mess around with it and see if it works. And then I'll go along and I'll start to think of a new effect that I can do with that method. And then I'll mess around with that effect, and I'll try to make the method a little bit better. And usually the method ends up changing. And then I'll then use that method to create a new effect. So it's kind of like this cycle. I'll go method, then effect, the method, then effect, the method, then effect. Yeah. So I think that I think that more or less hits on something. I've heard you mention, this is one of my favorite things that I've created, and I'm looking at the water guns right here for it. My water gun roulette was like this.
I think that water gun roulette, by the way, is the best family. It's the best trick you can do for a family audience that I've ever seen. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And you can do, since I published it in the on my Penguin live lecture, I've received so many comments, right? You can load up the guns with for those of you who aren't aware, basically you have several water guns on the stage or on a table. I usually put them at the edge of the stage. On the lecture, they're on a table because because the theater's a little different. But basically the premise is that I filled one gun with water, and the other water guns are full of beans in my presentation. Other magicians have talked about, somebody used Tootsie Rolls, which you could dump out on top of the kid's head and then throw them out in the audience. And it was kind of a fun idea. There are other things you can put in there. Basically, you've got a whole bunch of guns with Tootsie Rolls in them, and then one gun with water. And the kids try to avoid the water as they choose their guns, and you're dumping the contents on their head. And it's a fun, very interactive, really fun, very easy to do routine too, with some stakes as far as a roulette goes. But what happened with that is we were having a water party, a water gun fight at my parents' house, and a couple things happened, and I squirted my dad in the face with a water gun, and my dad's like this old man, and I didn't mean to. And I thought, wait, I just fooled myself there. There's something that I could do, right? Without giving too much away. That kind of like, and I think my initial thought there was, could I take the water from one gun and move it over into another gun or something like that? Like I do some kind of a teleportation, and thought, no, that sounds convoluted or whatever. So then it transformed into this water gun roulette. But it was discovering this method first, and then it kind of like came, and I started to mess around with things, and that was it. That's mostly how it goes. I discover a method, and then I go, wait, what's the best way to do this? And wouldn't it be great to have a magic show where you had water guns and everybody thought that they were going to get wet or whatever?
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. Because obviously inspiration is so important. That answered that question perfectly. So let me ask you one more question here, Josh, which is, you've kind of got the life that everybody could dream of, really. I mean, you're getting to do what you love for a living. You're going out and performing when you want to. You don't have to, but you go and do it because you love it. You're getting a chance to create and work with some of the biggest names in magic. I mean, that's a pretty sweet deal, right? I mean, is there anything, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Is there anything left on your magical bucket list that you want to achieve that you haven't achieved yet? Like, where are we going in the future?
I won the lottery I don't know. I'm super content. I think this is the secret. The hardest part about releasing magic is not getting the attention of a big publisher, right? The hardest part, I think, and in talking to other creators, is either waiting for the publisher to get back to them or waiting for it to be released once it's ready, right? And then what happens is the trick gets released, and 80% of the time, it's a little bit of a disappointment, right? And all of the cards were lined up and everybody was trying their hardest, but it's just not a hit, right? Uh, I think the best remedy to that, and this is what I do, is to be content with where I'm at. And so right now, I don't know where I'll be in 5 years. I hope that Penguin, what they have here at Penguin, continues to excite me and things like that. But I think the big secret for me, at least, I'm just super happy with what I'm doing now, and I get to meet and talk to people like you, and work on projects together, which is tons of fun. Um, and do exactly like I look at my life every day, and I think when I told my parents I was like 8 years old, I said I want to be a magician, and they said, yeah, sure you do, right? And somehow it's worked. And yeah, I I'm just super grateful. I totally understand that I won the lottery, that it's this fluke of sending something to Rick Lax and then going and having like these breadcrumbs to the best magic company in the world that I in my opinion. Yeah, it's just something I'm super, super grateful for. I don't know if there's really, it's not like a teacher. It's not like being a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor where they go, this is the road, you go to this much school, you do your residency and you get hired or whatever, or you go to this much school, you get your teaching license, and then you go into a classroom or whatever. Um, they, I don't know how um, I don't know what my advice would be to have somebody have a position like me, other than like just love the magic and be happy with where you are and just continue to be passionate. I have tons of friends. I'm neighbors with Drew Backenstoss, who had a great Penguin Live lecture. Richard Hatch used to own H&R Books, which they published Aaron Brown's books. They're both kind of neighbors to me, and they've worked out similar ways to use their passion, to like take advantage of their passion. And it may not be their full-time job right anymore, or and so I think that but they've figured out how to be happy where they are, and I think that's the big thing is don't look forward so much, pay attention to the present and the now, and try to be happy where you are. That's easy for me to say in a position that I only dreamed about being in, right? But that would be my big thing is you're good, like figure out how to have magic make you happy, I guess. And then when it does make you happy, when you do enjoy it, right?
That's great. That's one of the best answers I've ever heard for that question ever. That's amazing. Couple of quick fire questions for you before we finish off. First of all, you've seen pretty much everything that's come out through Penguin in the last decade. What's your top 5 favorite tricks?
Yeah. So I mentioned snaps. I love snaps. I love, let's see, what do I use in my shows? That's a good. I love Starkle. I don't use Starkle. So I tried to learn Starkle, but I kept on getting like 8-sided stars and 6-sided stars. I need to slowly go through it and learn it. Oh, another Dan Harlan trick. They're just going to be all Dan Harlan tricks.
Nothing wrong with that.
This product actually didn't do super duper well, but I just love it. I forget what it's called. It was Dan's Mismade Bill. I'm sure everybody watching this is going, oh, I know, like that's what it is. It was basically he created it for a Keith Berry special, for the Keith Berry Spring Break special, I think is what it was. But basically, it's a torn and restored bill, but it's with the signed bill, and it's a you end up with an inverted bill. What is that called? Oh, I can't think of with the mismade bill. I can't think of what it's called, but that's totally up there.
Wow.
It's a little, or it's not super obscure. It came out during the pandemic, and it takes a little bit of like purchasing things and stuff, but that one's totally up there. So that's 3. I love, let's see, they're very similar, Touch and Predictions. So Touch, Nick Lacapo put a lot of work into, but that was Paul Curry's effect. And then Predictions by Roddy. Everything that Roddy does, actually. And then probably Little Door is on there too. Little Door is just so fun. Yeah,
Little Door is so good.
I think that's a pretty good top 5, even if that's not the whole top 5. I carry a Razor wallet with me. I'm excited about new tricks that I have coming out with Penguin. Everything that Dan Harlan does.
Question. Yeah, are we going to be seeing some more Josh Burch material coming out in the coming weeks and months, and
yeah, who knows when it'll come out? I don't know the ways that printers and whatever, but yes, there is some stuff. There is some I'm not sure how much I can say. We have some stuff coming out with some trading cards. That one I'm really excited about. That's something that I've been doing at every single gig for the last few years. Really interesting things you can do with trading cards. I have probably the next thing that will come out is kind of my take on a poker 10-card poker deal, which is really exciting.
That's
that has to do, it's not a poker trick anymore, which I love poker effects as well, but it's got kind of a fun twist ending. It'll be a lot of fun. And then there's a handful of other stuff that's kind of smaller that I'm excited about that's coming out too.
That's brilliant. That's amazing. And do you have any? Well, I think it'd probably be Dan Harlan or Roddy McGee. I was going to say, do you have any favorite artists that you've worked with? But
yeah, it's actually not. I love Dan and Roddy. As far as people that I've worked with, yes, they're wonderful. Really, Christopher Carter is somebody who we've worked with a lot at Penguin. In Penguin Magic Monthly, we actually so a lot of people don't know this. He's a mentalist and he performs at college shows across the US and travels all over the place. He's one of these really like hardcore workers. But he created the anniversary waltz, and we were able to reprint his original anniversary waltz in Penguin Magic Monthly. Everybody associates it with Doc Eason and Garrett Thomas and things, and I think Doc Eason's is probably the most popular. Not Doc Eason. Yeah, Doc Eason. My brain's all over the place today. So
oh man,
but as far as like my top 5 creators though, I love Luber Fiedler. He might be number 1. I love Tobias, always has wonderful stuff. He's living right. Let's see, David Bergless. People do not understand how brilliant. People today don't understand how brilliant David Bergless was or is. He's incredible. And there are a handful more. I was going to make a t-shirt that had a what's it called? They had their faces like carved in stone in a mountain of just like my favorite creators. Yeah, those are some of these guys. They're just so creative and innovative. Creating new things like David Bergless. His methods read like a spy novel. Like he's got people he's got extra people working behind the scenes, running and doing all this stuff. He's incredible. He's if you can track it down, it's super expensive and impossible to track down, but the Burgess effect, or the I think it's the mind. Is it the mind? Oh, it was put out by Hain Publishing. I think Richard Kaufman did it. The mind Myth and Magic of David Burgess, or something like that.
Yes.
Such a great book. And yeah, he's just the best. And we did do a Penguin live lecture with David, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Still working on Tobias. Tobias needs to come over and join the Penguin group.
Yes, he does. Tobias is amazing. Tobias is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And one last question.
Yeah.
Social media. Obviously, I've said over the last 3 years, since you've been working on the Penguin social media, it's blown up on all platforms. Long form content on YouTube, short form content on Instagram and Facebook, and so on and so forth. The stories, just everything that you're doing, you're hitting it out of the park. As somebody who is leading the charge when it comes to the social media marketing for Penguin, is there any advice that you can give people that want to become social media magicians? Because it's a big thing now. I mean, when I first got into magic, social media just wasn't even a thing. But these days, you can make a really high profile for yourself doing social media magic. How do people do that? How do they stand out from everyone else?
So my biggest thing is I look for authenticity in social media. So a lot of people will focus on the algorithm, and I refuse to even, I almost refuse to acknowledge the algorithm. I'm looking for when Craig Petty looks at our social media, what is he going to think, right? Is he going to think, oh, that's a cool little trick, or that's a cool little video, or that's an interesting thing? That's what I'm trying to look at. Is I'm trying to look at actual people and how are they going to react to my magic, or the magic that we're putting out. And some of that has to do with the algorithm, but I really, with so much of that, it's so mysterious, right? Who knows what they're actually doing behind the scenes? I don't see that as super helpful. So when I scroll through Instagram, I want to see something surprising, something that I think is interesting, something that looks very professional and put together. I want to see I hate it when people cheat on social media. There was a prominent magician. I won't name names. Maybe I'll tell you later, because I think you'd think it was funny. Who was doing just the world's greatest ESP matching trick, and so all he did was he had his spectator was a Confederate, and knew which cards to put down, and oh, they all match. And so some people were so excited. They're, oh, this is amazing. Are you going to release it? And he's like, I'm closed-lipped here. I'm not going to release anything, right? So when I strive to make everything as fair as possible on Penguin, so that magicians can see what they actually want what, like, real magic, right? What it would actually look like in the real world. Yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice, is if you're doing something just because you think it's going to appease the algorithm, that's problematic. The algorithm's going to change. If you're doing something that you think that other magicians will like, or that an audience will like, or that lay people will like, or whatever, then that's different. That's a higher standard. And I think that we need to hold ourselves to that standard, right? I'm also a big fan, and maybe it's a bad idea, I don't know. I'm not going to stand there and go, I'm the best and we're the best, and we're the greatest. I hope that our work shows that we're like, does that for us. I don't need to stand up and say, we have 10 bangers coming out this week, and we're lighting the internet on fire, and we've sold out of everything, or whatever. I don't need to say that. I can just show you, here's a video of David Blaine performing with snaps for Logan Paul, which he just did a couple weeks ago on his podcast. It's like, if David Blaine is performing using our products, like, that should speak enough for itself. I don't need to blow myself away, like to look like a, I don't know, to look really arrogant here. Like I can step back and be, no, it's okay. These guys, yes, Hook was used on BGT, and that speaks for itself. Like I don't need to. So that's the deal. Social media is for people to connect, and so I'm focused on what do I want to see, what do other people want to see, not what does the algorithm want to see. What does that's my big thing. And maybe that won't make you famous overnight, right, on social media. But at least you'll be able to look back at your magic on social media and go, wow, that was good. I guess one other thing that we've kind of been focusing on with our specific deal on Penguin, we used to do a whole bunch of kind of long form videos. We're trying to do a whole bunch over time. We found a lot of success in slowing down some of that stuff. I know you're amazing, and you're able to pump out so many of these great videos. That sometimes we've been able to step back. We'll step back periodically and look at what we're doing and go, now is this working? And that was one of the things that we've done recently, is we've kind of slowed down on some of those and only put out stuff that we're really excited about, which is another thing. I don't know. But ignoring the algorithm, looking at people, that's the big thing that I think with social media, and the people can get caught up on. Yeah.
That's great. And it can be, I don't want to say toxic environment, social media, if you're not careful, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That's the other question I get on the channel all the time. How do you deal with people just being dicks on social media? Like I remember when I was over in the States, you know, I filmed Monkey in the Middle for you guys, and we had people going, hang on, Craig tweeted there. Well, no, I didn't. I just grabbed it off the shelf and I just performed it. But okay, whatever. You know, you get that all the time. You got it kind of comes with the territory, doesn't it? There's nothing you can do.
Some of it, yeah. With my approach to that is, I mean, specifically with the Monkey in the Middle thing, we had a little bit of fun. And I have this isn't a secret. I have an account called Penguin Magic Troll that I will use from time to time to respond back to Penguin when I'm ready with a response. So if you see that on Penguin, it's kind of a joke account, right? It's not but so we'll go back and forth. So and usually I'm echoing what somebody else has said, but maybe they've used expletives or something that I can't really like repost. So we played back and forth with Monkey in the Middle. There were some people who had some thoughts, and then we're like, no, you can do it with a signed card, guys. That's the original. That's the deal. You can do Monkey in the Middle with the signed. And then we found a video of you doing it with a signed card, and it was a really great kind of back and forth thing. Yeah, you can have some fun with that, and it helps. With a lot of Penguin stuff, we ignore it. We don't. If there's a big problem, we can talk like big kids and talk to people, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of issues with Magic, and you've been in the middle of some of these things, is just this lack of communication between people.
Most of them at one point or another.
Yeah, it feels.
Yeah.
Right. It's like if somebody. This happened with peanut butter and cheese. With my oil and water. A couple people came out of the woodwork and were asking about, oh, that's just a ripoff of so-and-so's, and that's just a ripoff of so-and-so's. We were able to reach out to the artists in question. And I think most of the time, or hopefully, you hope that you can just have a conversation and go, you know, I didn't realize I was getting anywhere near something that you were doing, but here's how mine is different. Here's how what I think yours is different. We can deal with that, right? So usually my reflex is to I don't know, let the drama subside, and we don't have to be Penguin should be a fun place to go to. Magic, we have all types of magic. So everybody should come on in. Magic can be for you to watch, to enjoy. Magic can be for you to go out and perform. We probably have something that you'd like. That's kind of yep. So some drama can be fun. The drama that we had with Monkey in the Middle was just kind of fun and poking, getting the community kind of excited about a trick that they should be. Monkey in the Middle is a great trick that everybody should be doing.
Everyone should be doing Monkey in the Middle.
Yep. Usually I kind of, if there's any drama, we try to kind of sort things out behind the scenes and stuff. So that's not always possible. There are times that we've had to, working for Penguin, I've disappointed so many of my idols, of my different people. I've said stupid things and posted stupid things, and then we've had to dig our heels in with some things, and then you hear about so and so who, I used to love that person, but why are they mad? I swear we did everything that we were supposed to. But yeah, it comes with the territory. And there's stuff that you can do. That's one of the hazards of doing social media, is just you're out there. You're going to find good people and you're going to find bad people, and the bad people are like thorns. They're going to remind you that they're there.
Yeah.
Painful.
That's again, brilliant advice. Josh, seriously, this has been an incredible interview. I mean, it's been so insightful. Your advice on creativity, your advice on contacting Penguin, getting in touch with them has been amazing. But on top of that, such an inspirational story as well, because at the end of the day, here we have somebody who was a kid loving magic, absolutely loving magic, wanted to be the next Lance Burton. And here you are, all these years later, working for the biggest magic company, the biggest magic shop in the world, doing so much, released your own products. I mean, wow, performing, it just shows that if you want something, you want it bad enough, you can achieve it, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. I hesitate to tell other people that you can do it too. But I mean, I did it. And I suppose there are other people that can do it too, right?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Anything that you want, you work hard enough, 100%. And you're an inspiration, man. You really are. I can't wait to hang out with you at Magic Live. I really can't.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be
great. Very, very, very excited about that. And I mean, thank you for coming on the channel, and thank you for doing this interview. It's been a long time coming. I've been trying to organize it for a while. So I'm so glad that it's come to fruition. And I want everyone who's watched this interview to leave a comment down below. Let Josh know what you thought of the interview. If you've got any questions, leave it down below. And don't forget, next time you're interacting with Penguin Magic on socials, there's a man behind that. There's a face behind those.
You're probably talking to me. Yeah.
That face is right there in front of you right now. So you now know the guy that you're interacting with. And like I say, congratulations on your continued success. Penguin are smashing it out the park, and a big part of that is the social media, and obviously you're a huge part of that. So congratulations.
Appreciate it, Craig.
No, seriously, man, you're killing it. So thank you so much for coming on the channel, and thank you so much for being so forthcoming with your advice, and thank you for everything that you have done and continue to do for the magic community.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate it. Thank you for saying all that.
No, it's very true. Guys, like I said, leave a comment down below. Let Josh know what you thought. Go and, follow Penguin Magic if you don't, and go buy all of their stuff. Penguin are brilliant. And I'll be back very, very soon with another video. But on behalf of Josh, thank you very much for watching. My name's Craig, and this is Talk Magic.